GM, thank you for tuning in to Sunday Dinner. I'm your host, Zach Radio, and I'm really excited for the two guests that I have on the show today. Two creators, two builders, two gentlemen who have had the opportunity to bring a lot of value to the Rug Radio ecosystem, and I'm super excited to have them on the show today. I have Moon Safari and I have Daito. Hopefully, I think I'm demolishing your name. What is the correct pronunciation of the name, my friend? How are you doing?
Hey, doing good. Yeah, Daito's it. You nailed it.
Perfect, perfect. How's your day going so far, my friend?
It's pretty good. I mean, after a week in LA for the conference, I needed a few days to unwind, so I was able to take Friday off and get out on the golf course yesterday, and today was just taking it easy with the family and doing some gardening to get ready for spring.
It sounds like you have it all structured and planned out. So I definitely want to talk to you about your experience during NFTLA. I seen you post a few different things, which we will talk about within the interview. Moon Safari, how you doing today?
Great. Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
No, definitely. I definitely want to thank you both for your time. And the reason why I reached out to both of you is because you guys are bringing so much value and you're investing so much time in the growth of the Rug Radio ecosystem. And I really wanted to see what I can do as a community member to learn more, and of course get the guidance of you guys who are building that day to day and investing a lot of time into this ecosystem. So I want to thank you guys again. And so before we kind of get into the interview, Moon Safari, for those who are unaware of who you are, can you give a little bit of details of your background, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think you and I have maybe talked about this in the past. I live in Las Vegas, which I think you do as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir. That is.
Yeah, yeah. So I was born and raised in Las Vegas. I'm a professional numismatist by trade, which is just a fancy way of saying that I buy and sell rare coins and currency for a living. Um, And yeah, I aside from that, I've in the past I used to work in the film industry. I was a studio lighting technician for many years, and then I went out to LA for that, and then came back to Vegas and kind of got into my childhood passion, which was basically just coin collecting and getting into that by trade. And then of course, when crypto came around, I kind of picked up on that early. I got into Bitcoin and Ethereum like late 2015, early 2016, and just started stacking and trading a little bit of that. Based on my income level, I wasn't able to become a multi-billionaire, but I think we all have goals, right, based on our own limitations. So that's good. And then right around about a little over a year ago, I kind of I picked up on a tweet thread about Rug Radio before it even minted out, and I really liked the concept. I really liked the idea of like a decentralized media platform that like basically not just the platform owns the content, but the creators and the participants of the platform as well. So that's why I got into Rogue Radio.
And since that time, so much has changed and so much growth has happened within the ecosystem. So thank you for those details, Daito, if you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, so I got into crypto around 2017, held throughout the bear market. Bought my first NFT late 2021. And I think the first thing that I ever fucking minted was the Lynx DAO fucking NFT, like on New Year's Day. Which is a project that I'm super happy about. Like, those guys actually did what they set out to do, and they bought a fucking golf course. Like, that's fucking badass. So I'm a huge fan of decentralized autonomous organizations. Got into Rug Radio near the time of the mint. Was involved with the original 30-person council that was self-nominated, and then now I'm serving on the 7-person council for the past 3 months, and then we just got voted in for another 3. And then outside of that, I also write for Gary Vee, and that's just my DGen shit. So my regular 9 to 5, I've got a job like other people. I work at a large asset management firm, and I was actually fortunate enough to align like my degenerate blockchain passions with my 9 to 5. So I'm actually working on the digital assets strategy and incubation team at our firm, and have been for the last about 3 or 4 months. And yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Thank you for those details, sir. So you were one of the original DAO Council members. What made you so bullish on the Rug Radio ecosystem? Understanding that it's decentralized and giving the creators their own ownership, but what else made it so intriguing for you? Because seeing how much time that you guys invest into the ecosystem, it's more than just being bullish on something. So what made you so intrigued on this ecosystem, Dido, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so empowering the creators is definitely a huge value proposition of Rug Radio. The other thing that attracted me initially was just simply reading, the quote unquote white paper, so to speak, but the information that was released that was largely crafted by, the likes of Mel and other members of the core team in terms of the tokenomics and the structure of the entire Rug Radio ecosystem. So I could see the genius behind the tokenomics and how the rug token was separate from the RDAO token and how it was a slow release mechanism from the Genesis NFTs. And if you step back at a 50,000 foot view, like all you see is just like this beautiful thing that was constructed in order to help ensure that this really is media for the people by the people. And that's what I loved about it most. And then obviously, in the last 2 or 3 years, we've had dozens of examples of things that were happening in mainstream media that, regardless of, what side or of the debate or conversation you're on, like the fact of the matter that like a single entity or, a small group of people can kind of dictate who can and cannot operate on some of these social platforms. That's to me kind of absurd. And the hope is that, if you can decentralize things like censorship, for example, you just let the people speak for themselves and they'll tell you who they want and what voices, are inciting violence or so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of the power of decentralized governance when it comes to things that traditionally have just been dictated and by arbitrary decisions by whoever the fuck has been given power.
No, well said. And us having an understanding of DAOs within the ecosystem, there's been quite a bit of challenges with certain DAOs within Web3. Some haven't been as, I guess, as fair as they could be from some community members, but there's always been challenges. And understanding what the Rug DAO is doing when it comes to accumulating the DAO tokens and having 1,800 to be able to get to one Rug DAO brings in such a you actually value because you had to earn these tokens to get to this point. And kind of elaborating on that, could you kind of discuss on what would you say separates the Rug DAO from your typical standard DAOs within the ecosystem, if you don't mind, Moon Safari?
Yeah, honestly, I would just kind of really like to echo what Dido was saying is that it's if you take a macro view of it, if you step back and just a wider lens of it of what we're building at Rug Radio, and not just me or the DAO Council, but really the core team too, it's kind of innovative and it's new. I mean, you talk about decentralization, which is basically just a fancy word for democratization. And democracies have been around for 2,600 years, and the idea has been around a lot longer than that. But what we're trying to do is take take technology and put it in the hands of the people around the world, and they get to make their own choices. They get to vote with their wallets, and then as we build out, what we're building out is really novel. Like DAOs are novel. It's it's hard to it's hard to compare ours against others. The idea is the principle is the same across the board. It's basically taking the power from the tippy top upper echelon and kind of distributing it downwards through all the people. I guess that's the best way to put that. Also, I just want to say that 2160 is here too. He's on the DAO Council as well. So
Let's get 2160 up here. If he feels like it, feel free to request if you want to come up so we can get you on board. Dido, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, you kind of hit it on the head in the beginning too, in terms of what kind of makes us unique. So by sheer fact that you have to exchange your rug token for an RDAO, I haven't really come across yet in the ecosystem. That for me is essentially registering to vote, which you don't see in a lot of other DAOs. And so the idea is that anybody that's actually, taking that action is pretty much raising their big fucking hand in Web3 and saying, I believe in decentralized governance and I want to participate. So that's why you see voter turnout rates in Rug Radio north of 50%, where other DAOs in the ecosystem are lucky if they get 10%. So I'm like, that's something that, me and the other council members really hang our fucking hat on, because it's extremely unique and it gets the attention of the likes of, Consensus Mesh, who's, the arm of the Ethereum Foundation that has a vested interest in DAO succeeding. So like that's kind of what sets us apart as well.
So on that note, Dido, for those who are part of the ecosystem but haven't taken the time to actually vote and see what's being proposed at this time, what would you recommend the best way of kind of focusing in, because it can be kind of overwhelming in the beginning? What would you recommend on how to get more involved and participate in what's taking place within the DAO?
Yeah, so we have a dedicated channel or a couple in our Discord, and one of them is purely for gathering an inventory of proposals. And so that's definitely where I would start. And you're absolutely right. It's tough to keep up, and it can be daunting at an initial glance. I mean, even as a council member, like I think based off of the official proposal that we pass in Snapshot, council members are expected to, contribute anywhere between like 2 or 3 hours a week, in order to fulfill their duties. You can easily spend 2 hours a week just trying to keep up with all the shit that's being said in Discord. So it's definitely hard to do, but I would definitely start there. There's a dedicated channel. Check out the proposals that people are submitting. See if, one or two catch your eye, and then, just kind of begin that discourse with the rest of the RDAO holders and the broader Rug Radio community. Talk about what you do like and what you don't like about the proposal. What might you change? Connect yourself and throw a DM or at the person that actually submitted the proposal, and have a conversation back and forth in terms of how you can make it better. And more importantly than anything, just volunteer your time and talent and do it freely. Like, before we had, the small amount of compensation that we're given as council members, I spent a good 9 months, helping out the Rug Radio ecosystem and never seeing a fucking cent. That's the best and easiest way to get involved with DAOs. Like, just offer your time and talent. It is valuable, but offer it freely.
Within the go ahead,
I was just
Safari.
going to kind of piggyback off of what Adida was saying. Yeah, honestly, I can spend 2 or 3 hours a day just trying to parse through all the information, not necessarily a week. There's a lot going on there, and I'm not trying to overwhelm people because it's actually exciting going through that stuff. It's every day's like there's a new challenge, there's a new great idea, there's a new conversation that you can insert yourself into. And one thing I just want to attach to that in addition is, as an RDAO holder, you get to put forward a proposal. So I mean, anybody can collect rug tokens and use them within the ecosystem. But once again, like Dido said, once they raise their hand and make that choice to become an RDAO holder and take part in governance, then they also get the privilege of being able to broadcast their own ideas, bring their own ideas to the table, and we'll all get to look those over and debate them, and obviously the best ones rise to the top. So
Well said, and thank you both for kind of going into those details. So for someone who's finally accumulated enough to get one rug, what do they have the option to immediately start creating proposals, or is there specific funding where specific time periods for these opportunities for proposals? Can you kind of elaborate on that, Moon Safari?
yeah, sure. Once you get an RDAO token, you're in. So the floodgates open for you. You can turn your mind on and bring it right in and plug it right into into those dedicated channels Dida was talking about, and just start the conversation. Obviously, if you're just getting in now, we're over a year into this already. A lot of ideas have already been discussed. You can always just read through those channels. You can just bounce ideas off of people just in the normal holders chat and see what's already been kind of worked on, what's already been thrown away that, I don't want to say thrown away because every idea is good, but some ideas aren't possible either through legal or regulatory conditions or just technical infeasibility. So but no idea is a bad idea. So just once you got your RDAO token, bring it in and start talking.
One thing I see a lot is snapshots. Make sure you do this before the snapshot. Can you kind of elaborate on what that snapshot is when it comes to the voting within the rug DAO, Daito?
Yeah, so periodically, once ideally we've collected a few proposals that have been vetted out and then endorsed by other members of the core team and the DAO council, and the community thinks that it's got a decent chance at making it through the formal voting process. That's when we typically announce, like, 1 or 2 days in advance, that we're about to take a snapshot of all the RDAO holders, and that's to ensure that everybody has a decent amount of time to like we discussed, convert their rug tokens into RDAO so that they can participate in that formal vote within Snapshot. So that's usually what we mean when we talk about snapshots and in relation to the DAO.
When it comes to your guys' position as a rug DAO council member, you guys, once again, I said this prior, you guys put a lot of time into building this ecosystem. What does it actually entail to be a member of the council itself, if you don't mind, Daito?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, it's just in protecting and ensuring that the DAO operates as intended, specifically in line with the original DAO governance framework that was passed by the larger 30 council members. But we're still early, so we've had it going on for 3 months now. We're very much still trying to define the roles and responsibilities of individual DAO members. But at the same time, it's tough because, the beauty of a good governance framework, or a quote unquote constitution, if you will, that runs a DAO is in its simplicity. If you try to bury too many details within, like, say, a formal, governance proposal, then you kind of handcuff like the next group of people that are going to participate. And in the nature of like decentralized governance, like, it's going to be a revolving door. So you just have to set like the right types of guardrails and the foundation so that, the next people that come in and operate and that are, capable of being hyper involved and focused within the ecosystem, have the freedom in order to do so. And yeah, it's, about protecting the DAO treasury. It's about ensuring that proposals are looked at in a timely manner and go through the process and in accordance with our voting framework that we passed. And every now and then you just kind of find your little niche as a council member, if you will, right? So I know we've recently partnered with Prop House, which is something that was built by the Nouns DAO, and we launched our first funding round. And some council members kind of helped spearhead that, and make sure that the marketing and education and whatnot that was necessary in order to see that succeed came to fruition. So it changes, and I'm sure Moon Safari is going to have a great and unique perspective too as a newer council member in terms of what they think it's all about.
Yeah, if I could just roll right into that, my basic answer would simply be, the DAO Council facilitates the rug DAO holders, and basically we're here for them. Our job is to facilitate any kind of proposals they bring to the table, kind of parse through those, find the ones that seem like they will work or that they will pass through the snapshot vote, and really just kind of dig in on those and use help get those proposals across the line so we can use that intellectual I don't want to say property because it hasn't been developed yet, but that intellectualism into kind of shape that into a forward progress, forward building momentum for Rug Radio. The thing that you have to remember is that ultimately at the end of the day, Rug Radio is a business. I mean, the core team works hard to create the business and the brand. It's basically, a media company that we're building here. The idea of having the DAO is to create a way to decentralize that so that all participants of that business get to prosper from it. And so, as just being in the DAO Council, we have to kind of understand what the core team wants to build, how they want to build it, and how that kind of like coalesces with just the regular RDAO holders' ideas and the kinds of proposals they want to bring to the table.
Yeah, the other thing that I'll add, Zach, and I see Loxley in the audience, something that they mentioned as the co-CEO of Rug Radio early on when our DAO Council was formed is that, beyond the daily operations of the DAO, what, we really want to see from the DAO Council members as well is just adding partnerships and actually networking and trying to find out how we can, create relationships with other people, both in Web3 and in Web2, that can deliver value back to our holders and the RDAO. And so, just coming back from Los Angeles in the past week, that's something that I was super excited to do and had top of mind throughout the entire trip. If anything, I found it hard, balancing, the requirements and the value that I could bring back to my DGen endeavors, as well as my traditional 9-to-5 job as well. And oftentimes I would start a conversation thinking that I'd be able to bring it back to my office, at the asset management firm. And then it would evolve into a conversation and an opportunity that seemed ripe for Rug Radio. And having to kind of juggle that and find creative ways to bring value back to the RDAO is something that I'm super excited about too. And then the other thing that I just wanted to say, and we kind of hear it all the time, right? But I think it's super important. Like, we are early, and we haven't seen, at least in my opinion, that aha moment for blockchain and like cartoon JPEGs that just completely transforms the way people think about this technology and truly onboards like millions of participants. Like, we need, like in the early days of Facebook, for example, right? That Farmville moment where people were like, holy shit, like, free to play games on Facebook are going to be a fucking thing. Like, where's our Fruit Ninja moment? And what's great is anybody with a fucking RDAO token can submit a proposal, and it's our job as council members to try to identify what that thing is. Like, the idea for the next Farmville or Fruit Ninja or whatever the fuck is going to bring people in could very well be in the minds of our holders. And we just need to make sure it gets pushed through and that we actually fucking build it.
Well said. I couldn't agree with you more on that regard. So you being an original council member, it went from a little over 30, if I'm not mistaken, to the 6, if I'm not mistaken, at this current time. And looking at who was on the original 30 plus, everybody was brought value, right? Continuously, lots and lots of value in their respective positions, and whatever they did in life, they brought value back to the ecosystem. And you guys have narrowed it down to 6, and all 6 of you guys all bring value as well. So what was the decision, and what was like the conversation of narrowing it down to just 6 instead of the 30 plus prior, if you don't mind, Dado?
Yeah, so, if you're not a full-time fucking DGen living in your parents' basement, it's really hard to get like even 7 people, which is what the council is at right now, like 7 people in a meeting for like 30 minutes once a week. Like, it's like herding cats. And so, imagine doing that with 30 people, like the original council, right? It was nearly impossible. Reaching quorum was a Herculean task. But it was kind of nice, at least in that first 30-person council, we kind of divided into subgroups to cover all of the major areas that are pertinent to a decentralized autonomous organization. So that was good. But yeah, I think the main reason to go from 30 to 7 was, for streamlining the operations and just the execution of the actual council and making sure that we could, reach quorum and whatnot a little bit more easier and align schedules in order to actually execute and deliver on what's been laid out in terms of what we're supposed to be doing.
Thank you for going into those details. So everything's coming together so well within the ecosystem, just with the Corey Van Loo PFP and adding additional partnerships within the Rug Radio ecosystem. And I see everything that Jessica is doing with on the creator side and putting it all together. It's building something that you can believe in, right? Where do you guys see Rug Radio in the next 5 years, if you don't mind, Mustafari?
Yeah, that's actually, I think about it all the time, but it's still a very difficult question to answer. I mean, when I first saw Rug Radio, when I first kind of like engaged with the principle behind Rug Radio, and I basically minted out when they launched on January 11th of 2022. I basically saw a long-term vision. I saw what this could be 5 years, 10 years from now. I could see what it could be a generational thing, as like, 20, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, long after a lot of us are gone. I hope that the things that we're building now are still in play and still very useful to the next iteration of generations and councils and of course RDAO holders that come behind us. I mean, what we want to build is we want to build something that we can hand off to the next generation, our kids, and then they can hand it off to their kids. And it continues to build. And the idea is that if you're creating content, you will get paid. If you're participating in engaging with that content, you will get rewarded. If you're a platform builder that's partnering with Rug Radio, and Rug Radio is a platform itself, the platform will get rewarded. The idea is to break the model of Web 2, which we always been talking about, I mean, just the idea that these very rich people can, take our data and then just sell it around the world and make money, and we don't get to see any of that. That's an antiquated model, in my opinion. And I think that what we're trying to build is something that will last many years into the future. So,
Daito, anything you want to add to that, my friend?
Yeah, my hope is in 5 years for Rug Radio that we've just become a household name. It's just the onboarding ramp for the next million people that want to participate in decentralized media. I see a day where you wake up in the morning and you brush your teeth, you have your coffee, you're eating your breakfast, and you fucking vote. Like every fucking day, it's just part of your habit. It's part of your routine, and the shit that you vote on doesn't have to shatter, and blow people's fucking minds. Like you're just having breakfast, and maybe you're voting on the fucking artist, or musician that's gonna play the opening song for your favorite show that you're gonna tune into later on that day. Right. So I want that voter participation to just be ingrained in our everyday lives. It's just becomes a habit. So that's kind of my dream for Rug Radio and my vision of what decentralized media can do in the future. And that's kind of what we're hoping to see. Some people say are you trying to be the Web3 Pandora or the Web3 YouTube or the Web3 Instagram or Netflix? And I'm like, the way my mind works is fuck it, we're all those things. The sky's the limit at this point. So who fucking knows what we can be in 5 years? I'm just here for it.
It's funny that you articulate it that way, because when I talk about Rug Radio to my friends and family who aren't in the Web3 ecosystem, I compare Rug Radio to Viacom. And what they are in the Web 2 media. Every media company, every channel is pretty much under the Viacom ecosystem. And when I talk to people, that's how I feel like I describe Rug Radio for those who aren't really tapped into the ecosystem. So when you said that, you're like, we're everything. I completely agree 110% in that regard. So once again, though, I do want to be very mindful of your time. I know you guys are super busy, but so you guys spend a lot of time building Rug Radio. What are some other communities that you guys are bullish on in this ecosystem? Moon Safari.
Yeah, I definitely want to answer that question. I think that I just want to follow up one more thing about Rogue Radio, and like where we're headed in the next 5 years and beyond is that we talk a lot about Web 2 companies, and sure, like in the past Web 2 companies, they have like corporate structures, and their content creators do get paid a lot of money, but it's not really equitable. They basically get contracted out, and they get paid a certain amount of money that they can bring into that ecosystem. The idea with Rug Radio is that it's equitable across the platform. It's so like when Dido says you get up and you get to vote, you also get rewarded for that, and not just by picking this the band that plays the opening song for the show you're going to tune into, but you actually get tokens from the ecosystem. You get to go back and use those tokens to reward yourself, kind of like Starbucks. It's like Starbucks rewards. You vote enough times, you're going to get enough, to get a coffee, or you're going to get enough to get a Rug Radio hoodie, or you're going to get enough to buy this cool NFT that we sell in the reward store, or making available with our native token. So there's just so much more in terms of like the participant, the users and the participation that gets rewarded. So sorry, I have a hard time breathing sometimes when I talk too fast. So
Take your time. I understand. Take your time.
yeah, some other communities I really like. That's a broad question. I mean, I've been in and out of a lot of different communities. I have a ton of NFTs. I think that the thing that I like in terms of like NFTs are the actual artists, the one of one artists and the edition artists out there working independently for themselves. I really get into a lot of that stuff. I love digital art, so I collect many different artists, and I think like in a broad spectrum, that's the one that I'm most bullish on.
Yeah, I was looking at your collection, Moon Safari, and you have quite a bit of digital art over there for sure.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I really, I kind of like, I'm a sucker for the underdog. I really like the people out there that are grinding away at home every day or every night, every weekend, building the kinds of things that they like to see. And one thing I am bullish on is like music NFTs. I'm really into the fact that like you can create a whole new medium and a way to distribute that medium across, to your many fans and followers. So there's just so much going on out there. It's hard to like pinpoint one thing, but I really do just love the independent artists.
How about yourself, Dido?
Obviously I'm sporting a Deadfellas PFP and will pretty much for fucking ever. Unless I get my hand on a zombie punk, which probably isn't going to happen. Other than that, I pretty much like any community in Web3 that's giving tools to their holders in order to help them kind of like monetize and unleash the intellectual property that they actually own, and enable them to commercialize their IP. I think that's truly what makes kind of Web3 unique, and obviously we can thank kind of the Bored Ape and Yuga in order for introducing that kind of gem into our lives, right? The idea that we can actually own a piece of the intellectual property pie is extremely unique. That's why you see things, like Web2 companies coming in and just minting these digital collectibles, right? The reason they call them digital collectibles is because they have no IP or commercial rights. So I'm not a fan of digital collectibles. I know other people are, and that's perfectly fine. But that's one of the first things that I always check out when I'm looking at a project or a collection is whether or not IP is attached to it, because if it isn't, I'm really not interested.
Thank you so much. Dido, you were one of the first creators, builders in Web3 who I noticed made like their own digital identity with their PFP. And I remember you having like super articulate conversations on why people don't necessarily need to dox. And you were also one of the first people who kind of gave that almost that narrative where everybody who's not docs is not a scammer. Everyone who's not docs is going to is going to rob, take your ETH from you. And so like, how were you able to do that? Because you built a lot of trust in this ecosystem, and if I'm not mistaken, not too recently you doxed yourself. So like, how has that been for you these last couple years?
Yeah, I would say recently was kind of just a soft docs too. Like when I was running around in LA and meeting people and, going to parties and shaking hands and shit, I just still introduce myself as Daito. I'm Daito for I guess as long as I'm breathing digital air. The reason why I believe strongly in digital identities is because everybody deserves like a level playing field. Kind of like you alluded to, right? I didn't enter this space in order to protect myself or because I have something to hide. It's to make sure that the person that comes after me, that, doesn't have pronouns that are he and him, didn't go to a school and, graduate with a bachelor's degree or have parents that, gave them a trust fund and had everything fed to them on a silver fucking platter, has a chance to fucking make it. That's what makes me so passionate about this space. Like you said, the fact that I could come in as an anonymous fucking zombie and then within 3 months find myself serving on a DAO board of directors alongside people like Keith Grossman, the president of Time Magazine and the COO of Mashable and the CFO of T-Mobile and shit like that. Like, that's absolutely insane to me. And the only reason that I was able to be given that opportunity is because of the communities that I was a part of. Like I tell people all the time, I think it took less than 80 fucking votes for me to get on that first 30-person council. And I guarantee you, like, more than half of that came from the fucking dead fellas. So, like, that's all it fucking takes in order to get started in this space. Like, again, volunteer your time and talent, find a community that supports you. And that's why I'm bullish about digital identities. And then the other thing that I'll add too is this isn't going unnoticed. So, I mentioned in my 9 to 5, I work at an asset management firm. We have $10 trillion in assets under administration, over 40 million retail customers. We have a group of people that are dedicated in terms of publishing like the top 5 priorities in the macro environment that they think our entire firm should be focused on every year. This past year, within their top 5 priorities list for 2023 was digital sovereign identities. They recognize that this is not a fad. Like, people coming in and building digital reputation, digital credibility, and creating, alternate outlets of expression and art, and even, different revenue streams outside of their 9 to 5 is going to be a thing, and it is not going away. So I'm super excited about people coming into this space again with the right intentions, and I'm a huge fan of only getting one shot at entering the space anonymously. I know we've heard examples, in the past of people kind of re-rolling their fucking digital characters multiple times, and I'm not a fan of that. I think you get one shot at building a digital identity, and as long as you don't take it for granted, like you said, you can kind of just move through this space with the right intention and make the right connections and build up that reputation over time.
And with all that being said, this is the reason why I'm so excited of everything that Rug Radio and the Rug DAO is doing, because we have council members like you two gentlemen who are bringing so much value, being very transparent. And when you add in all the things that's being builded with and around you guys within this ecosystem, the sky is the limit. I feel like the sky is just the beginning for what we see and what we're doing in this ecosystem. So I appreciate both of you gentlemen. Before we close it out today, is there anything that I missed? Anything you both want to speak on?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I mean, basically, I was just going to say, first of all, it was really great to be on. very happy that you invited us on. One of the things we did talk about in the DAO Council was being a little bit more transparent. I mean, we work hard, and a lot of times it can, especially since during the time that I wasn't on the DAO Council and I was kind of on the outside looking in, still a member of the community and have been since day one. It seemed, that a lot of the work was being done behind a veil, and we couldn't really peek behind that veil unless we were invited. But that's actually not the case. The idea is that, from a council member's perspective, you want to try and be as transparent as possible. You want to try and reach towards the RDAO holders as much as possible to lend your assistance and, any kind of wisdom you might be able to provide to them or learn from them as well. And also, more importantly, is help them take their ideas across the finish line so we can advance the community, the spirit of Rug Radio, and the idea of building what we're building, and harder and faster and stronger every day. So, I would just say, if you are interested in Rug Radio, come join us in the Discord. There is a great rewards program that Zach mentioned that Jessica had built, which is an amazing rewards program. It belongs to everybody now. You can join it, and all you would need is at least a membership pass, which I think is the cheapest entry point into the Rug Radio ecosystem right now. It's probably somewhere around $20. You just get that NFT and you can enter the rewards program. Then you can start earning Rug tokens. You can get up to 1,800 Rug token. You can convert that to an RDAO token. And once you do that, you're good to go. You can now join the DAO. You're part of the governance plan, and you can propose ideas. And if your ideas are great, they will rise to the top and they will help affect change at Rug Radio.
Yeah, the last thing that I'll add, Zach, I think it was something that Frank DeGods had mentioned in a fireside chat at the conference in LA this past week that really resonated with me. And he said that when it comes to communities, it's hard to put a price on the fact that you could go to any major city in the entire world and have a best friend. And it struck me because that's precisely what happened to me in LA. I flew in on Monday, and then on Monday afternoon, I met with, 5 or 6 people from the Rug Radio ecosystem, and I followed them everywhere for the rest of the week. Like, they were my foundation and my guides in LA. And if I didn't have that, like, my experience, at the conference and the satellite events would have been completely different. And for that, little Rug Radio family meetup, like, the first place that we fucking went to find people was the RDAO holders, token gated channel in our Discord. I went in there and added everybody probably too many fucking times. And I was just like, who's going to be in LA? And, the people that were available and able to make it, showed up, and we just had a fucking blast together all fucking week. And, that type of experience will be replicated over and over and over and over again. And again, in probably every fucking major city that you can think of. That's another beautiful thing about the Rug Radio ecosystem. We didn't have a PFP. We didn't start as a PFP in the beginning. Like, people from all different types of PFP communities flooded to Rug Radio. Like, that's what also makes us unique. We're like the melting pot of Web3 PFPs. So I'm super excited about that. And again, it's just absolutely priceless being able to have an experience like that.
No, well said, and you are 100% correct. This ecosystem that we have at Rug Radio is amazing, and it's a melting pot. So I definitely appreciate you both. Question for you, Dido: did you get tatted at the Dead Fellas event?
No, I couldn't do it. So I've never had a tattoo in my life. If they were handing out like digital tattoos and I could do something like for my avatar, I would have been all about it, but I'm still ink free.
No, completely understood. With that being said, Moon Safari, Daito, I appreciate both of you gentlemen and the time that you're investing into the ecosystem. I can't wait to continue to support everything that you guys are doing, and I will be doing some voting and participating in the Rug DAO, and I will be presenting some proposals, and hopefully they get voted in. Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you
Yeah,
guys.
would really love to see what you're thinking of and what you bring to the table. Yeah, really just happy to be here and happy to answer all your questions. And hopefully, people who have more questions can just meet us in the Discord and ask them there.
You both are amazing. I'm gonna close the show out. Thank you guys for pulling up today. Everybody in the audience, thank you for your time, and thank you for educating the community, Moon Safari and Daito. It's not easy. You guys invest a lot of time in this ecosystem, and I'm grateful. And please continue to do what you guys are doing. Enjoy your guys' weekend with your families, and be safe out there, guys.